Good evening. Before I start with the Lord's Prayer, I wanted to make an announcement. Dr. Eriko will be speaking this Saturday, and if you haven't registered yet, I was just speaking with him, and he's going to do something that nobody talks about, which is he's going to be revealing a part of Jesus's nature that no one ever talks about. So that's it's going to be very eye-opening. I'm going to go ahead and read what he wrote, and hopefully in the email that you received, mainly for the benefit of people who listen to us on YouTube. The name of the topic is The Mystery of God, Humanity, and the Universe, and this is this coming Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And you'll need to contact the foundation to register for it. God is infinite, so his universe must be too. Thus is the excellence of God's magnified, the excellence of God magnified, and the greatness of his kingdom made manifest. He is glorified not in one, but in countless suns, not in a single earth, a single world, but in thousands, thousand, I say, in an infinity of worlds. The divine light is always in man, presenting itself to the sense and to the comprehension, but man rejects it. This is a quote from Giordano Bruno, which I know that Rabbi spoke about in the past. I and my Father are of one accord. This is from Jesus, John chapter 10. So get ready to once again put yourselves on the ancient, magnificent Aramaic Eastern carpet for the June session of the Aramaic School of Light. Dr. Eriko will be taking us into the old world of Mesopotamia, the source of our Bible, revealing how we got God and the gods and goddesses and why and how they disappeared. He opens hidden secrets of the scriptures and brings to them great clarity and understanding for our modern age. So please, if you haven't registered yet, do join us. This is going to be a very interesting and, as I said, eye-opening with some stuff that we've never heard Dr. Eric even talk about it before. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and open with the Lord's Prayer in the Aramaic language, the way Jesus spoke it over 2,000 years ago. أون دوشميا نتقداش شماخ تأتي ملكوتاخ نهوي صوينخ إكنا دوشميا أبرأ حاولان لحمة تسمكان يومنا واشوق لان حوبين إكنا داب حنان شوق لحيوين لا تعلن لإنسيونا إلا بصن من بيشة مثول دي لاخي ملكوثة حي لو تشبحتا العالم عالمين آمين. So welcome to Wednesday. I've been very excited. This is a rare thing for me because since I've been back from my travels, this is the third session in a row where I've been with you, and it's great to be connected with spirit and with my spiritual community on weekly basis versus sometimes I go like a month and I speak once and so forth. We had a good cadence, Rabbi and I doing it every other week, and now we're very excited because we know that we're doing Dr. Eriko, Rebecca, and myself the first Wednesday of the month, and we'll also be speaking on Rebecca's podcast the last Thursday of the month. So you'll see more of us and more of us together as well, which I'm very excited about. So as I was preparing for today, the two things kind of kept coming into my mind. Maybe it's what I've been reading. Sorry, I have something on my glasses. Um, what I've been reading, what's coming to my awareness is this um, struggle with new generations and maybe all of the generations. I keep reading how and when I was in Italy, noticed some patterns in the community, and I looked at divorce rates, relationships, and so forth. And it looks like that, especially with the younger people, there is a lot of struggle around getting together. And I'm not talking about marriage and traditional marriage, just people finding each other, finding love, finding trust in each other. And though Jesus is touched, and I will get into the verses, he touched on marriage in a very, like maybe in one place. But his focus on humanity, his teachings of for us of how to become better, how to get back in touch with our spirit, our soul, our essence, and then how that opens us up and gets us to behave differently in our society, in our community. That's the crux, and I don't hear a lot of people tackling that. We see a lot of AI involved. We see a lot of apps trying to introduce people and find commonality. And I'm talking whether the people are looking for the same gender, different gender. I'm not making any judgment on that. I'm just saying people looking for love, looking for relationship, looking for connection, they tend to struggle these days, and a lot of it is our lifestyle. I think we're also changing a lot of things. Uh, a lot of people met at work, and now work is remote. And not only that, people who do work together, we've been stung by so many bad cases or a few bad cases that forced a lot of regulation of relationships in the workplace that people now are not comfortable. They go to work and they're scared to death to talk to a different to a person they might be interested in, even if they see that there is a chemistry and a spark. There are a lot of HR rules that prevent that from moving forward, or it becomes almost like forbidden and frowned upon instead of a nurtured relationship. The same thing, we see a lot of people who met at school or at college and so forth. A lot of that is moving into remote setting. A lot of that is also being viewed as like, we are very sensitive about that. So I really, as I said, there is very little to draw from Jesus specific to the relationship and marriage, but yet his whole ministry is about making us better people, first for ourselves and making us love ourselves and reconcile any issues we might have with ourselves, including last time I spoke about forgiveness, how to forgive ourselves, how to work through things that might be holding us back from growth and from the ability to blossom and find joy in life. And that should very naturally translate into our ability to connect with people. If you come at people, when Jesus talked about treat others as you want to be treated, that should be a component of marriage or of a relationship, of any relationship. And the way you want to be loved, the way you want to be treated, the way you want to be served. Because I'm hearing also part of it is there is this friction about chores and gender roles and so forth. And that's what the media and that's what online forums are picking up on. And it's there, and the reason it's picked on is because people read it and people think that's the norm and that's what's there. And that's where I really, really still blame our religious structures because they miss the point. They don't talk about these things. They're still stuck in some very traditional teachings that were written for people who lived in the Near East 4,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago, people who viewed marriage as a property transaction, people who viewed adultery as a property violation, people who had a different standard for, they were tribal, they were nomadic, they had a lot of enemies, they had bloodlines that meant something. And that's what I'm saying. If we take, and the Bible, the reason I blame religion is because the Bible has a lot in it, including the teachings of Jesus. But when it comes to these things, what we call institutions and what we call dogma and what we call theology, they picked some things that helped advance the church's agenda, but took away from our humanity, took away from our nature, from our ability to love and trust and be together. So it, when Jesus talked about marriage, and I will go into the exact verses. It's in Matthew 5 around 27 because I really wanted to start with 27, and the reason I wanted to start there is Jesus in this part of his what we call the Sermon on the Mount. And I sometimes I don't give it because there is like I always like to go to the end of Matthew because there is a lot of like really deep apex of Jesus's teachings. But in here, Jesus was a master when he said, "I'm not coming here to create a new religion or to annul or kind of changed the Jewish religion." He said, no, no, no. He referred to it because it wasn't religion, it was the law. It's the law that governed people's interactions. It's the law that governed people's businesses and relationships. It really governed the whole community. So Jesus grew up in a spiritual community that also had an issue with occupation, enemies, and it's no longer pure. When Moses put the tabernacle, the tent where he put God in the tent, and then built all the tents around it for the rest of the tribes, that fencing included only what we call Jewish people. They weren't called Jewish people. They were not called even Hebrews. Maybe Hebrews because they were the ones who crossed. But those 12 tribes were all related, all married from within each other, maybe cross-tribal and so forth, but they really tried to protect their bloodlines and the purity of that. Though they were cousins with the tribes across from them, and in many cases they did intermarry and they did sometimes follow the gods, and that was that created a lot of tension. But we're talking about a long, long time ago, tribal mentality and tribal thinking. Now when Jesus came, he didn't have that purity around him. He didn't just have Jewish people in Nazareth where he grew up. He had Romans who were very powerful and ruling, and they had soldiers there, and they had tax collectors, they had a government system, and they had caravans coming in from the east and the west and the north and the south. And Jesus was watching all of that. So he couldn't just say, like have those blinders that Moses maybe had of saying, my people, my people, my people only. And when the story of Moses is they were abused in Egypt. So he had a lot of, um, sorry, I thought I turned my phone off. So he had Moses had a lot of people who were trying to change his tribes and pull them into different religions. Jesus had to be open-minded and look and see how people were interacting across cultures, across ages, across even marriage definitions, sexual habits. When the Romans are there, that Jewish conservative law that some people would try to enforce. And yet, even the Jewish law, I was just, went back and did a little bit of refresher on one of my books from a rabbi. And if you don't have this book and you want to know more about uh, Jewish thinking and Jewish discussion around women's freedom, women's sexuality, that's a great book because they discuss a lot of that and they peel again, what we call the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, and the books that are in it, and the prophets' behaviors, there is so many layers there that you can see how the society was much more open-minded than how our conservative brothers in Judaism or very conservative brothers in Christianity and maybe even Islam. They picked bits and pieces that served their purpose, but the Torah and the culture and their view on human relationships is completely today has been misused, and it was actually much better than what we have. At least, I mean, I think we have a lot of freedom now, but again, it's the boundaries, that the norms. When we call ourselves Judeo-Christian culture, or there are so many things implied that are not really biblical, that are not from the biblical culture or the biblical perspective, and more importantly, they're not from the Jesus perspective. And that's so key, because Jesus is by changing your nature and reminding you that you are a child of God and you should behave that way. When you go out to society and find those relationships, and you start thinking, you come at it with that innocence that Jesus demands of us. He demands us to be like children, not naive, but innocent, but trusting, but loving and intuitive. That's the Jesus essence. That's why the kingdom works, is that now we are working together towards something good. And that's why the early society, when Jesus was recruiting, and then the people who carried it forward, those are the signs. He was known as the Lamb of God. Where in today's Judeo-Christian propaganda, media, religion, do we see the Lamb? We see the dead Jesus a lot. We see a fighting Jesus on a horse. We see the revelation image that we think is Jesus, but we don't see Jesus. We don't see the Lamb. We don't see the meek man walking around Galilee teaching and blessing the meek, blessing the peacemakers, whom again he sat and watched in the squares where they brokered the peace deals, where they brokered when two business partners were not getting along, and instead of going to the court and getting, basically losing everything, he watched how they brought him together into peace, and they were fair in their judgment. But Jesus in here in Matthew 5 tells us about, like, now he's going beyond. I You have heard it. Yeah, you have heard that it is said, you shall not commit adultery. And as I said, adultery was not what the church tells us about it today. It's not what religion defines it. And anybody on TV just talks and spews adultery, adultery, adultery. Adultery was very specific. It was a property law, and it was because of the bloodlines, and because inheritance were dependent on that purity of the bloodline, that the early Jewish thinkers, the early Bible was talking about, if you violate that, there is no way out of it, because they didn't have DNA testing, they didn't have paternity testing like we do today. So I think if they would have had it, they would have, maybe were a bit more flexible. Hey, we'll go to court and do that test and go from there. But Jesus knew that because that's a part of his society, and that was something that went, and as per usual, if you emphasize it, people are more curious about it than if you just say, hey, this is not something. If you raise your kids, that's something you do not do. In most cases, society tends to kind of grow and based on that belief system. But so here Jesus says, but I say to you that whoever looks at a woman with lust, okay, so again, what causes somebody to look at a woman with lust? It's all the other teachings, or the prevention of even seeing women, segregation of male and female, in house, in schools. And I grew up in culture where where the boys, I think I went to a co-ed school until fourth grade. Fifth grade, it was still a co-ed school, but they separated the classes. By the time I was in seventh grade, I was in an all-boys school, and that was the norm across the country. So imagine as you're hitting almost puberty on both sides, you're completely segregated. And then the culture tells you you can't look, you can't touch, you can't see, and you have all these feelings. That's what, and that kind of creates some of that lust in between people because it's not normal anymore. The girl that used to sit next to me or in front of me of class in my class is now it's now I can't even see her. I can't even look at her. And in some religions, they start covering as soon as they hit puberty, so they're even more hidden. And we see some of that. That sadly we see it today in Afghanistan. So and that's culture and that's religion and that's very tightly coupled with culture. So Jesus here is saying, regardless, if you understand your community, if you understand the rules of your society, and you go and you look, then you have has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Okay, in his essence, we know how the mind works. We know how our nature kind of manifests once we start going in that direction. And and then if so, then he talks about if you I want to make sure I didn't miss the part that I wanted to cover. If your right eye should cause you to stumble. So again, he's talking about envy. He's talking about desiring something that somebody else owns. So this is where the eye kind of plays a role. This is very idiomatic Near Eastern Aramaic language. Okay, so if your eye causes you to stumble, you'd better pluck it out and throw it for you away from you. For it is better for you to lose one of your members and not have all your body fall into hell. So we put our so if we start living from an envy perspective, if we sit in our home and look across and see our neighbor's car or our neighbor's wife or our neighbor's husband or whatever it is that our eyes kind of wander away and we start having those thoughts, he's saying nip it, stop it. If you, I mean, it's an exaggeration to say pluck your eye out, but he's saying stop that habit, stop that string of thoughts that's taking you there. Simple, right? Jesus is simple. I know Dr. Errico has like one thing against Jesus is his simplicity. And it is this, but then this simplicity also creates a hard work because we are not taught to not want what others have. It's actually it's promoted in our community. It's promoted in every media feed that you look at when you're on Instagram, on Facebook, on TV. You want to get that thing, you want to get that thing, you want to get that thing. And when your neighbor gets it, ooh, it's just across the street, whether it's the attractive spouse or the attractive car, and that's where things kind of starts going sideways. You either get depressed because you can't get it, or you're going to reach out and try to get what's not yours. So he's going root cause. And now imagine if this alone, if I put this up on the wall at Instagram or Google advertising or Facebook, these mega multi-trillion dollar companies would collapse because that's their business model. They promote this. They all of it, from adultery to envy, to wanting what you don't have. It's creating that interest. This is what almost our whole economy is built on now, and a lot of our wars are based on that. That the wars that we're launching right now is about controlling resources, is controlling commerce routes. It's controlling oil, controlling thought ultimately. Because that leads to that, and that's why the big CEOs are constantly playing now more than ever. We see it. They're playing into the world government. They're showing up at world leader meetings, in the meetings, because it's now clear that the world is not run, but because of one country has that better ideology and better systems and so forth. It's all about money. That's Jesus was very aware of that. And his system, that's what I'm reading, what we're discussing here, is exactly how to take that and dismantle it, but in a peaceful way, not in a bad way. You start dismantling this in your own heart. You start dismantling this in your community with your children by teaching them what, but by not teaching them almost what is society is trying to push at them. It's like, but it's very hard, and I know that some even countries are instituting when can children start getting their devices and which platforms and which apps they can log into. But those are like, having a ship with 1,000 holes and leaks, and you're just trying to put a couple fingers in two holes, and because fundamentally our economy is now based on it, and we are not looking for a different way to do economy. We're just trying to, close some gaps on some things that we might feel collectively that is the ethical right thing to do. But we're not tackling the root cause. And Jesus was all about root cause. Don't commit, and they told you don't commit adultery, but they didn't tell you how. When you start looking, you already started. They didn't tell you don't steal, or they told you not to steal. But I tell you, don't, if your eyes start seeing something and you start wanting it, you're already starting the theft. So see how his style and his metaphoric language and his way of speaking gets lost because a lot of people who believe in Jesus and follow Jesus's teachings take this literally, and they go. Some of them would, actually do pluck their eyes, or because they're not working first with the language and the idiomatic nature of Jesus, his whole ministry, but they're taking it literally and they're missing the point. I wish churches spoke about this. And if your right hand, same thing, should cause you to stumble. So if you're somewhere and you feel like, whoop, I'm just going to grab this thing, nobody's looking, you're better off, cutting it off. Cut it off and throw it away from you. For it is better for you to lose one of your members and not have all your body fall into hell. And see, I mean, this is again, what is hell? Hell is when you steal something and then you're sitting at home fearing, am I going to get discovered? Will they know? Will my neighbor notice that missing thing that I took from their yard? Will they know that I slept with their husband? Will they know that I slept? That's hell. That's as simple as I can put it. What that the mental torment that you can put yourself through, either because you're envious and you're constantly thinking about, I want to go get that thing, I want to go get that thing, I want to go get, that's hell. But then when you go get it, there is more hell. It doesn't end there. That's the root cause. So if you're tempted, nip it, stop it, change those thoughts, go into meditation, go into reflection, go into your essence, and stop wanting things. See, that's the other thing, is wanting things. He knew, and 2,000 years ago, it was no different. Somebody got a new camel across the way, or somebody just bought something from the caravan that came in from China, and some new silk or something, and somebody spotted it. They can't afford it. Guess what? They're going to try to get it, but they're fine. They're living fine. I mean, in the Lord's Prayer, Jesus tells us, God gives us, give us our daily bread. Have the faith that your food is going to be provided, that your hard work and your good intentions will bring you the place to sleep. They even asked him, where do you sleep? If I follow you, they see this, big teacher and they think, okay, he's set. But if I follow you, what do I get? And it's like, I don't even know where I'm going to put my head tonight. That's Jesus speaking. That the guy that we want to make God out of him. He was that simple, and he knew he had the faith to know that if I keep speaking the truth and I make it to the next village, if I don't make it to the village, I sleep by the side of the road and I'll be safe. I won't worry about the bandits because I'm not carrying anything. I'm not showing anything and because it's not important. The same thing that he taught his apostles and disciples. When you go on a mission, when you travel between towns, don't carry anything. Don't take anything extra. Don't show anything that would make a bandit come look at you and say, "Oh, you're a target." Oh, Jesus! Hey, what wonderful, wonderful teacher. How am I doing on time? Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, we have a click on your Q&A button on the phone or find it in Zoom and you can put it there. I think somebody put a comment in the chats and I don't even open the chat window, but um, I now I opened it so I can see chats. But really, if you put it in Q&A, it makes it easy for me to answer it if I have time at the end. So it has been said that whoever divorces his wife must give her the divorce papers. Because remember, marriage is an acquisition. We can even see it if I go to, I think, chapter 1 of Matthew, it says that Joseph acquired his wife because it's an acquisition. This book, sorry, somebody was asking a question about it, talks about the acquisition. There is a dowry that in the Jewish tradition, in that society, there is an exchange of property where the man gets the woman from her family by acquisition. And once she's his property, if another man touches her, then he's violating the property. So Jesus is saying, now if that woman gets sent out, and some men did that and pushed women out the door, then without the paperwork to release that acquisition structure, that purchase, then that woman is in limbo. And if she does sleep with somebody, if she gets a boyfriend or some good man decides to take her in and make her his wife or girlfriend or whatever, then that they're violating the Jewish law and they could actually, kill her and kill the man who sleeps with her. So Jesus knew that, and he said, must give her the divorce papers. But I say to you that whoever divorces his wife, so he's gone into root cause, except for fornication. He basically honors the law of Moses and the law of the tradition of his community and society about the acquisition structure. So fornication in this case is committing adultery. So if she commits adultery, the man has the right to divorce her, give her paperwork, and actually, I don't know at his time. I think I read it before, but I don't know during the Roman rule if they allowed execution of women for adultery. But it was she could not reintegrate with society. So except for fornication, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a woman who is separated but not divorced commits adultery. It's very similar to, I mean, it's amazing how much our laws today are structured almost based on that same theory, based on that same structure. And luckily, we look at now both as equals in this relationship. Um, but the way it's written, though, culturally, it was more pro men, less women. And that's why Jesus had to highlight that just because your wife got older or can't have children, or and you have other desires, you can just toss her out or even divorce her because he saw that as a problem in his society 2000 years ago. Same problem where I started today is that the divorce is is a part of our society. I think as I said, when I was traveling in Europe, I think their percentages are close to like 50% of people who get married get divorced. I don't know what the stats are for second marriages, etc. But that's and that's fundamentally when two people come together and commit, whether it's with marriage or without, and if they come at it from the Jesus perspective about treating each other the way they want to be treated, about sharing life, about respecting each other, about respecting their community and society, and getting stuff out of their like the envy and the desire to get acquire other things and so forth. If you start following Jesus, you don't need a piece of paper between you to build a life. And then when you if life does take us sometimes separate ways, sometimes one of the two digs deeper into spirituality and finds something else to grow into, and the other one doesn't, or does some different path. And they walk away, but walk away as friends, walk away as people who respect each other. You are both children of God. You are both if you're coming at this, especially as the students of Jesus, don't have the pressure of having to stay together if you're not happy together, if there is more to life. But he's saying, usually, if you're on the same page, if you're good people, you'll see a lot of opportunity to continue to do the life dance and grow together. So as I said, I have absolutely zero bias towards divorce or staying married, even the actual institution of marriage. I have, and if you heard me speak about it, I don't believe in the pressures and the structures of society. I believe that people come together and stay together as long as they're both happy. And if some, and a lot of people can manage to make it through and stay happy, and some people decide that for whatever reason that it's time to move on and away from each other. Just do it in a nice way. Don't do it in a hateful way. Don't let things get there. Again, you have heard that it was said to them who were before you that you shall not lie in your oaths, but entrust your oaths to the Lord. So I spoke about how much oaths are a part of the daily language in Near Eastern culture, and people will say "Wallahi," in the name of God. I did this, or I saw that, or whatever. That's so normal. It's like part of like uh, you know you'd say it as a person, you'd say it 4, 5, 6 times a day, not normally, and sometimes more, especially if people are working in a market or something and they're trying to sell you carpet. The name of God, well, carpet, spices, clothes, whatever they're selling. Well, that's where it's like this. Wallahi, this is the best price I can give you. And then you start walking away, and they give you a better price, and you walk away again. So why did you swear the first time and the second time and the third time? So it loses its power, and Jesus knew that. He knew that just by saying in the name of God does not make you an honest person. So people who swear a lot like that, he's basically is telling them, but I say to you, never swear, neither by heaven, because it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is a stool under his feet, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of a great king. Neither shall you swear by your own head, because you cannot create in it a single black or white hair. So he's taking something that society does and try when people try to trick each other, and he's dismantling it. So if you are a follower of Jesus, you just speak the truth. That's it. There is only truth. There is no need to invoke anything else to prove that you're truthful. And people know that. When I went with my grandmother to the market, She knew which store she went to and got the right deal for the right price. And she knew sometimes that she needed something else. And she knew those people will swear three, four, five times, and she'd had to walk out to get the right price. So society knows you. And the person who's truthful, they just sit there in their store quietly in the corner, and you walk in, you say, I want this, and they'll tell you it's $5 or whatever it is, and you get $5 and you give it to them, and you know you're getting the value. You walk next door and they'll tell you it's $50. And by the time you're done with them, you might get it for five, you might get it for seven, because that's the way they were trained. One is a good follower of the same system that Jesus is proposing, and the other one is a follower of society and probably how his dad and grandfather and mother and whoever influenced them taught them to sell. And we might think, oh, that's a great salesperson. I ran into it when in my travels because I was in uh, Malaysia, I was in Taiwan, I've lived in the US long enough that now I just walk into a supermarket or a store and I go, there's a sticker on it. Okay, there's nobody to negotiate with. Pretty soon we won't even have people there. There are a lot of stores where you just pick the thing up and it knows who you are and you walk away with it and it charges your Amazon account or whatever credit card you have in that app. But when I was traveling, I almost like my bargaining, my skills are a bit rusty, and it took me like I think when I was in Malaysia, it took me 2, 3 days before I was going like, wait, I need to use the skills my grandmother taught me. Well, otherwise I'm paying like four times more than I should be. And sure enough, that there are the supermarkets and the big malls where there is a sticker, and then there is the Chinatown and the local market and so forth. And those ones, if you just walk in and say, "Oh, I love this purse. How much is it?" It's like, "Oh, it's 100. Oh, great!" And you pay 100, and you walk, like two steps. And it's like, "How much do you pay for that? 100?" It's like, "You can get it for 20." I think I even bargained in Italy. There are places still in Europe that you can do some bargaining and get good deals. Otherwise, you're the tourist, especially if you're an American, because we don't have the mindset that you pay premium, and but that's shame on them, not shame on you. You're trusting. You're trained to trust that sticker, and you hope that that sticker is the right number. So see how if that society, if our society, that's a good quality in our society that we think that's the number. Though more often than not in the US, I found different prices for the same item because we have AI telling us how much are people willing to pay now, versus especially based on the people who come to your type of store versus people who go buy the same item from another store in a maybe poorer part of town or a different route or more remote or have cheaper rent or whatever. So now we can't even trust it. And the computers are getting smart at targeting us because of where we go and our pretty soon they'll know us. They literally will know exactly who you are, how much you're making, where do you work, how much do you have in your bank account, what your credit score is, and they might tell you just don't come in. You might find that, you're going to try to walk in one day to a store and they'll tell you, it's not for you. And if the door opens, watch out because they know you that well and they're going to get you what they think they can get out of you. It's happening. It's not theoretical anymore. It's actually there. And I think some people are even saying on Amazon, I have not tested it, so don't, I'm more gossiping now, but I don't doubt it because I do it with airlines. On Amazon, not logging in and looking for a price might display a different price than if you log in. If one of you tries it, send me a message next time while I'm speaking. Let me know if it's true. How am I doing on time? Oh, we have 15 minutes. Um, okay. I have a couple questions. Um, Let me just go a little bit more and I'll stop before the stuff that I usually speak about. You have heard it said that it's said. See, he's doing all of these things, kind of like chipping at the basic foundation of the Mosaic approach to law by elevating us above the law. And I've talked about this before. If you set the law, whether it's Moses or today's societal law, it's the low bar. If you follow Jesus, you need to be functioning at 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 feet above that bottom line societal law. Because societal law is, trying to control a million people who live next to each other from taking everybody's stuff and committing adultery and theft and fighting and swearing and so forth. Right? It's bare minimum. Jesus is saying, no, no, you have to walk way up here, way up here to actually bring the kingdom to existence. So there is no need for us to lock the doors. So there is no need for us to worry about adultery. So there is, there is only love. There is the relationships that you're finding, not a computer telling you you're matching in thought and economic status and type of person you put hearts on in the app or we just need to open up and really open up. I always talk about how much love is embedded in us. We are so capable of loving. You can see it very plainly most of the time, people and their pets. They get two cats, they love them and they talk about them all the time. They get seven cats, they love them and they know them and they give them names. The problem is, do they feel the same way about their friends? Do they feel the same way about their family? And we are capable of it. I said that example before because I'm always surprised by how each time I meet a new child in my family or my friends have a kid or they bring in a significant other. And I look at them as, okay, now you're with my niece, so you're a part, you're part of that, and I give them my love. And I don't have to steal it away. I don't call my other niece and tell us like, yeah, you know what? We have a plus one, so you're gonna get 60% now. It's always 100%. And with children especially, it's always 100%. A new 100% of you loving this person, caring about them, caring about their safety. If you're carrying them and you stumble, you'll fall on your back and hit your head, but you don't let them get hurt. That's Jesus. And he knew that about us, that we have, and that's God. All of us, being his children, have all this abundance to share. And I'll stop here. So go and love, go and trust. And if you know people who are struggling, teach them this stuff. Teach them to treat them as you want to be treated. And I know people can make jokes and say, well, my room is like a pigsty and my stuff is all over the floor and so forth. So if I move with them, that's how I'm going to act. That's not the point. The point is, if you care about them, you do your part to make the place clean. Do your part to make their life good. Do your part and make sure that you're not also depriving yourself of what you need so you can blossom. We need that energy. We need to plug in. We need to meditate. We need to know that we're okay and we are children of God and we're taken care of. And then from that space, you can love. You can find that person that you can partner with and not, Jesus did say, people who close the door, shake off your feet, don't hate them. And if you spend time with them, still same mentality. Walk away from bad situations, but don't feel like you're attached to that bad situation. His apostles were still new. They wanted to bring in hellfire on them. They wanted to burn them and destroy them because they did not let them in. Jesus said, no, you just walk away from the bad situation. So if you get in a bad situation, walk away, but be open to goodness, be open to the good situations. And I'll try to answer those questions. Um, the comments, thank you for your comments, very kind. The author of Sacred Secrets, in case you can also go on YouTube and pause there, but Gershon Winkler. He's a rabbi, and I loved it. I recommend this book, and I recommended it to many people, especially if you have a a biased view of the Bible when it comes to women and women's rights. He really gets into it, and he goes into the Talmud and arguments but between different rabbis and responses. It's really, really great. And it's all actually based on stuff that's in here. A lot of it is here, and a lot of it is societal because this is written for specific people at specific point in time, and it's not written sequentially like we see it. That's why I say if you don't want to spend a lot of time there, go to Jesus that and the little few pages. But uh, Rabbi Winkler does a good job at this kind of explaining and bringing different parts of especially the Hebrew Bible into life about how women lived at the time of the prophets, how women lived, and why those rules were put in place, and what other rules that we never hear about in our churches were actually are in place or were in place. And do you know why a woman was considered property? No, I don't. I think so. I say that, but culturally, I hinted at it is because property in paternal society is passed on by male to male. And typically, male, the oldest male inherits the lot, especially in Jewish tradition. You can see it today in both Jewish tradition and in Islamic tradition. The percentages are not equal. You don't, if you have two boys and two girls, not everybody gets 25%. More allotted to the male. And in many cases, the male gets the whole business. So if the father has a business or the family owns a business, typically it goes to the eldest male. That's the tradition. And that's so important to understand if you're studying Jesus and trying to understand the father-son relationship. And probably Rabbi will go into that. So I don't want to dive deeply into that. So then if you think about it this way, if the inheritance is going to male, then the girl does not really belong. Her job is to bring more children, more males to inherit. So that's fundamentally, that's how tribal culture, that's how the Jewish people, a lot of the Near East, Islam, kind of a lot of that, some of the laws, because they're tribal people, have the same kind of mindset. So then and even Indian culture, they have a dowry system which is reversed. The family of the woman pay a man to take her away because otherwise I don't know why they do it exactly. I haven't studied the sociology behind it. But typically, the woman being there, not being able to work outside the house, that there are jobs that their society defines as not appropriate for women. A lot of them were not educated. We see that in Afghanistan today, how anti-education of women they are. But that's thinking 2,000 years old, maybe 1,500 years old. So because hopefully I gave you enough to kind of, if you dig into it, you can see the sequence of thinking of why a woman then is acquired. So you paid the dad for raising her to be 16, or that was probably the marriage age, 16, 17, and some were younger. And then it becomes the property of the husband, who now passes his bloodline through her to children who are going to inherit that, whatever they own, whatever the wealth is. And if she breaks away, then or she goes against that property law. If she's divorced, that's what's good about the book I showed you. If she gets divorced or the husband dies and she becomes a widow, that the ownership papers are torn and she's 100% free. She's not owned by the father who was paid the dowry, so she's off his property list. and she's doesn't have a man owning her because they're either dead or divorced and give her her paperwork, then she becomes fully free. She can sleep with whomever she wants to sleep with. She can not never marry again if she chooses to, go live with somebody. A lot of the widowed women would host the prophets when they came into town. These are, the Isaiahs and that, all these prophets that we read about, especially the ones who are not married, when they traveled, they stayed with widows. And because it was allowed. Society didn't look at it badly. Actually, a lot of them got gifts that ended up feeding those widows. They left them with oil and bread and whatever people came for healings or for counsel. So, and that's but we don't hear about that. I was like adultery or going to hell. I said you need to understand it to be able to work with it and then advance it to where we are today. What our society, yeah, women are educated. A lot of them make more money than men. But then if you're teaching in your schools and in your laws and in your churches that a woman is less because the Bible said so, then you're going to have the struggle of building a relationship that's based on the teachings of Jesus, of love, wanting goodness for each other. You have all these other societal expectations and income levels. And we see that in corporations. We're still dealing with glass ceilings for women. They should admit the same job, better at it, more senior, making less money. Why? Right? So, did the Bible say that? Mm-mm. Some economists said that, or somebody who does not want to see Jesus manifest, the kingdom manifest, and keep controls in place. So that's probably why it's cultural, it's societal, and it was built for a time and a mindset. Yet, because it's here and we say we are a Judeo-Christian culture, which gives people the right to pick whatever they choose and hammer us with it. Do you believe biblical creation myth, Eve's origin, great influence over male, female culture values, whether seen as positive or negative? Um, the Eve story is different than the creation story that's in Genesis. Genesis, God created male and female equal in the image of likeness of Elohim, Allah, or the Ithya Rabba, or Elohim. But so what we did with that, and what that the second chapter of Genesis and the story of Adam and Eve and God making human beings out of the land and blowing into it, and it's a story. It's a story that exists also in other texts that were available in Mesopotamia and so forth. So we need to kind of again differentiate between story and myths of people who lived 4,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, and what we know today, and what we know about each other, and where these stories lead us in a direction that we shouldn't be going. But there are people who benefit from that direction. So watch out. Watch out for those teachers. Watch out. And Jesus warned there are people who do use this book and our willingness to be there with them and trust them. So be discerning. When people are teaching this stuff, walk away. Check the dust off your feet, go find it somewhere else. Jesus is out there. And there are a lot of people, a lot of good people, and quite a few good teachers who actually do this book justice. We are exactly at 5 o'clock. One last question. If a woman did not remarry after divorce, did she have an income or a way to provide for herself? Very good question. She should. In the time of Jesus, it wasn't as easy. And that's exactly, you're getting at the root cause of why Jesus said, unless it's adultery, take care of her, because society is not built in the year 1 AD or 1 BC. It wasn't built for a Jewish woman to go out and earn her living. It wasn't built for her to inherit her parents or her family's business. It wasn't. She was supposed to go with the husband and build a life that way and be taken care of that way. And then when the husband died, her oldest son or the son of maybe some other wife, because they had many wives, their duty was to take care of the wife of the father, whether it was their mom or another wife. Uh, so that society was structured that way. And Jesus saw that, and he saw how he can make it okay. If she hasn't messed up with adultery, keep her on your books. You can go marry the next 16-year-old, but don't throw her out. So that's I think fundamentally, and of course the Jewish women were looking at the Roman women, and the Roman society, women could inherit business and could run business. So and some Jewish women eventually could. So society did evolve, and the problem is that we, our teachers, traditional Christianity, the damn religion, and I'm going to say the damn religion, keeps holding us back from making those advancements. I was telling my wife the other day, if I were the Pope, and Pope Leo seems like he's a good guy, but in one stroke of his pen, he can undo a lot of this. And I challenge anybody in that position. Today, the Southern Baptists, I saw the headline right before I got on this talk. The Southern Baptist Church reinforced excommunicating all the churches who have women ministers. It's like, what? In 2026, you're voting on that and that vote passes? Somebody puts it to motion and it passes? We're out of our minds. We lost Jesus. Jesus does not exist in Christianity. They're powerful people, mainly men. And unfortunately, as a man, I probably can't throw stones at that glass house. Mainly men who are holding back, and there are a lot of women behind them. And I don't blame them because they're taught this from the get-go. They're threatened with fear and hellfire and so forth. All the misunderstood concepts are used to keep that cage controlling that religion and controlling the communities that belong to that religion. And if you don't know any different, if you're not coming to Wednesday night, that's why I tell you, go send the link to everybody you know, send the link to the people. And if they, and at high risk, there were points in my life when I started doing this where I'm going like, if I keep speaking this way, it might upset somebody enough to try to harm me. But because I am a follower of Jesus, because I know I'm speaking the truth and I have no agenda other than the truth, if something bad is to happen, I hope not. To me or to my teacher or to any one of you who, when you go out and actually face that resistance. In my case, when somebody wants, and I've had people in my classes kind of try to, get in my face, I go, like, you have your way of believing. I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to change you. And that's the truth. I'm not. If you're happy where you are, be there, stay there. Only change if you really think, and not because of me, because of Jesus. The teachings, the proof is in the teachings, and your happiness and joy and life totally transforms. That's the Jesus that we need here. I know one more question came in, but maybe I'll address it next time. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you for spending your precious Wednesday evening with us. And please do come to Saturday if you can. And as I said, it is a paid class, but if you have a hard time paying, contact the foundation. We typically set aside a few seats for, we call them scholarship seats. And until next time, I'll see you probably in a couple Wednesdays, maybe 3 Wednesdays. We'll see if Rebecca's doing a session. Next week, Dr. Eric will be with you. So hopefully I'll see you Saturday. And if not, I'll see you next Wednesday.